I never thought I would find myself in this position, typing out my feelings about a betrayal that I never saw coming. My name is Jack, and I've been married to Rebecca for 5 years. On the surface, we had what many would call a perfect life: nice house, decent jobs, and plans to start a family. But like most stories, there were cracks beneath the surface that I chose to ignore. Rebecca was beautiful, smart, and had this vibrant energy that could light up a room. I fell for her laughter, her ambition, and the way she made me feel like I could conquer the world. Things were good in the beginning, but as time went on, I noticed some changes. She became distant, often glued to her phone, and there were nights she'd come home late from work, claiming she was stuck in meetings. I was too focused on my own work to confront her, convincing myself it was just a phase. But one day, everything changed when I accidentally stumbled upon a message that shattered my illusion of a happy marriage. I was cleaning up around the house, moving things in our shared office to make space for some new shelving I had ordered. While shifting around a few papers, I found her phone, which had slipped under the desk. It vibrated, and out of instinct, I glanced at the screen. There it was, an explicit text from a guy named Eric, one of her friends. The text read, "Can't wait to see you tonight. I'll miss your sexy body." My heart sank. Those words hit me like a freight train. The betrayal was so brazen, so casual. I felt sick, my stomach churning as I replayed all the times Rebecca said she was working late or hanging out with friends. Naturally, I confronted her the moment she walked through the door that evening. I remember the look on her face as I held up the phone, my hand trembling. "What's this?" I demanded, my voice barely above a whisper. She laughed at first, a nervous, high-pitched sound that set me on edge. "Oh, come on, Jack. What are you even talking about?" Her eyes darted between my face and the phone as if she could somehow will the truth away. "Don't play dumb with me, Rebecca. I saw the messages." I was seething but also desperately pained. I wanted to hear her deny it, to tell me it was all just a misunderstanding, but she didn't deny it. Instead, she smirked and said, "You know it's not what you think. You've become so boring lately. You're always working and never want to do anything fun." That hit harder than any words I'd ever heard. I was crushed, feeling like she had punctured my soul and left me bleeding on the floor. I had worked so hard to provide for us, to build a life together, and here she was, throwing it back in my face because I wasn't living up to some fantasy she had. Rebecca went on to explain how Eric was just someone who understood her, someone who brought excitement back into her life. Her words sliced through me like a hot knife, leaving behind a bitter taste. I felt a whirlwind of emotions: anger, betrayal, and a deep sense of loss. This wasn't just an affair. It was the embodiment of everything I feared. The realization that she would rather seek thrills elsewhere than invest in our marriage was like a punch to the gut. I felt paralyzed, unable to process what was happening. As the confrontation ended, I was left standing there, staring at her as she walked away, leaving me in a haze of confusion and despair. In that moment, I realized I had a choice to make. I could either let her continue to hurt me or take control of my life. As I lay in bed that night, sleep eluding me, I began plotting a way to turn the tables. I wouldn't let her walk away unscathed. No, I would make sure she understood the consequences of her actions. The seeds of revenge began to grow in my mind as I thought of all the years I'd spent building my career, the successes I had achieved, and how I could make those the focus of my life moving forward. Rebecca would become nothing more than a footnote in my story. The days following my confrontation with Rebecca were a blur of emotions. I was stuck between anger and determination, feeling like a storm was brewing inside me. I was determined not to be the victim in this scenario. I started to take stock of my life, looking at how I had poured my heart and soul into our marriage, only to be repaid with infidelity and a display of contempt for everything I had worked for. I began working longer hours at my job, pouring my energy into projects that could elevate my career. I wasn't doing it solely to distract myself. I was doing it to cultivate an image, a kind of shine that would outlast the tarnish Rebecca had left on our relationship. I wanted to be successful, and more importantly, I wanted her to witness my success every step of the way. I also started to connect with old friends, people I hadn't seen in years. As I chatted with them, I couldn't help but feel a sense of freedom. There was an entire world out there waiting for me, a life where I didn't have to worry about being someone's backup plan. I was reminded of who I had been before this fiasco began to unfold, and I was determined to reclaim that person. One evening, I met up with an old college buddy named Matt. He was one of those guys who always had a knack for bringing out the best in people. Over beers, I opened up about the affair. To my surprise, he was incredibly supportive, and it felt good to vent about everything that had happened. He even encouraged me to start dating again, and while the idea felt foreign, it also sparked something within me. "Jack, man, you have way too much going for you to just sit there and take this. You deserve better," he said, his eyes earnest. "Just think about all the things you can accomplish. Think about who you want to be moving forward." His words resonated deeply with me. I needed a plan, and I began to devise one that would make my life not only bearable but extraordinary. I wanted Rebecca to see me thriving, to realize what she had thrown away. As the weeks went by, I started to transform my routine. I hit the gym more often, focused on my appearance, and even stepped up my social game. I met new people, and before I knew it, I was on a dating app. I swiped through profiles, finding a mix of excitement and apprehension. Could I really put myself out there after all of this? I set up a few dates, and each one was a mix of nervousness and thrill. I met women who were intelligent, vibrant, and genuinely interested in who I was. It was refreshing, an intoxicating feeling, and it gave me the confidence boost I desperately needed. I was no longer the boring husband. I was someone with potential, someone who could have fun. But in the back of my mind, the ghost of Rebecca still lingered. I hadn't talked to her since that fateful night, and every time I saw her in passing, whether it was her stalking around the house or the way she clung to her phone, I felt the tension. Each encounter felt like a reminder of my pain, yet also of my determination to move on. One evening, I was getting ready for a date when I heard a knock on my bedroom door. It was Rebecca. She stood there, her expression a mix of confusion and something that looked like regret. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice softer than I had ever heard it. I hesitated, my heart racing. I knew it was a trap. She wanted to lure me back into the pit of despair. But I played it cool. "Talk about what? How you're seeing someone else?" My voice was steady, but I could feel the heat rising in my chest. I know I messed up," she said, her eyes pleading. "But I don't want to lose you. We can work through this." I nearly laughed at her audacity. Was she really here to beg for my forgiveness? I held my ground, reminding myself of my resolve. "You made your choice, Rebecca. You wanted excitement, remember? Well, now you have to deal with the consequences." Her face fell, and for a moment I felt a twinge of guilt for the pain I saw in her eyes. But the anger quickly washed over me as I recalled the things she had said during our confrontation. I would not let her manipulate my feelings any longer. "I'm moving forward," I said coolly. "And you should too." With that, I turned my back and walked away, feeling a sense of liberation wash over me. I had stood my ground. I was reclaiming my life, and Rebecca was just a ghost of a past that I was determined to leave behind. As the days turned into weeks, I became more entrenched in my new life. I was met with challenges, of course, doubts, old feelings creeping in. But each time I felt weak, I reminded myself that I was building something new, something Rebecca would never take from me again. The more I accomplished at work and in my personal life, the more I understood that I was on a path to becoming the best version of myself, regardless of her choices. The idea of revenge began to morph into something more about regaining my identity and dignity. I wanted her to see what she had lost, and I was going to make sure she felt it deeply. As I continued down the path of reclaiming my life, I started to notice the subtle changes in my demeanor. There was a newfound confidence in my step, a lightness in my spirit. I was no longer haunted by the betrayal. Instead, I was driven by a fierce determination to succeed and to thrive. I was at a point where I could almost relish the idea that Rebecca would one day see the man I had become and realize that she had made a grave mistake. I was working hard at the office, putting in long hours, and it was starting to pay off. My boss noticed my dedication and offered me a promotion. I was over the moon. It was a big step in my career, and it came at the perfect moment, just when I needed a boost to solidify my new life. I accepted the offer and prepared for the challenges that lay ahead, excited to prove myself. In parallel with my work success, I started dating more seriously. I met a wonderful woman named Lisa on a dating app. She was smart, funny, and most importantly, she was interested in me for who I was, not for who I used to be. Our dates were filled with laughter and genuine connection, and I felt a spark I hadn't felt in years. This was more than just a rebound. This was an opportunity to experience a healthy relationship based on mutual respect. I felt good about moving on, but Rebecca was still very much a presence in my life, even if I was trying to ignore her. I made a point to keep my social media presence vibrant, posting pictures of my outings with Lisa and snippets of my accomplishments at work. I wanted Rebecca to see it all. I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy the thought of her scrolling through her feed, realizing that I was no longer the boring husband she had deemed unworthy. One evening, about a month after our last confrontation, I was out with Lisa at a local rooftop bar. The atmosphere was electric, filled with the sounds of laughter and clinking glasses. As I sipped my drink, I spotted Rebecca across the room, sitting at a table with a group of friends. My heart raced for a second and I felt a rush of mixed emotions, anger, nostalgia, and a bittersweet sense of vindication. I leaned over to Lisa, who was engrossed in conversation. "You see that woman over there?" I gestured subtly toward Rebecca. "That's my ex-wife." Lisa glanced over and I could see the curiosity in her expression. "Wow, I can see why you wouldn't want to be with her anymore," she said, her tone sympathetic but edged with humor. "Looks like she's regretting her decision, huh?" I chuckled, feeling a surge of empowerment. "You have no idea." As the evening progressed, Rebecca caught my eye a few times and I could tell she was trying to gauge my demeanor. I made sure to keep my head high, laughing and enjoying my time with Lisa. The juxtaposition was striking. While Rebecca was surrounded by friends, I was thriving in a new relationship that was built on respect and affection. Later that night, I went to the restroom, and as I stepped out, I nearly collided with Rebecca. She was standing there, looking slightly disheveled, her expression a mix of surprise and something akin to regret. "Jack," she said, her voice shaky, "I didn't know you were back in the game." I played it cool, my heart pounding. "Yeah, it's been a while, I'm just enjoying life." She crossed her arms defensively and I could see the gears turning in her mind. "I see that," she said, trying to keep her tone light but failing to mask the bitterness in her voice. "I guess I should have expected you to move on. You always were the one who could pick himself up." Her words dripped with sarcasm, but I wasn't going to let her provoke me. "Well, it turns out life goes on. Rebecca, you might want to try it sometime." I turned to walk away, but she grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly firm. "Wait, Jack, I really need to talk to you. Can we not do this here?" I hesitated, my instincts telling me to brush her off completely, but curiosity got the better of me. "Fine. Let's step outside," I said, leading her to a quieter corner of the rooftop where the city lights twinkled like stars. "What do you want, Rebecca?" I asked, my patience wearing thin. She sighed, her eyes darting as if searching for the right words. "I've been thinking. I messed up. I was stupid to think I could find happiness elsewhere. I took you for granted and I realize that now." My stomach twisted at her admission. I wanted to tell her she was full of it, to throw her words back in her face, but I didn't. Instead, I stood there, letting the moment settle in. "I mean it, Jack. I want a second chance." "I'm willing to work on things," she said, her voice softening, almost pleading. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was the same woman who had dismissed me, who had chosen excitement over our life together. I felt the anger bubbling up, ready to explode, but I contained it. "And what makes you think I want that? You chose Eric over me. You made your bed." The look on her face was pained, and I could see that it was hitting her hard. I know, I was wrong, okay? I thought I wanted something different, but all I really want is you." I shook my head, feeling resolute. "You should have thought about that before you decided to cheat. I'm not interested in being your safety net or your second choice, Rebecca. I'm happy now. I'm finally moving forward." With that, I stepped back, leaving her standing there, a mix of regret and realization in her eyes. I felt a sense of triumph, not because I had won anything, but because I had asserted my worth. It was a moment of clarity, a stepping stone toward the life I had always envisioned for myself. As I walked back to Lisa, the city buzzing around me, I felt lighter. I had faced my past, and I was finally ready to let it go for good. It was time to embrace the future, one filled with possibilities and the promise of new beginnings. Little did I know, my journey was far from over. The encounter with Rebecca that night stirred a mix of emotions within me. I felt a sense of finality, but also a flicker of unresolved feelings. In a way, it was almost cathartic to hear her express regret, but I knew that words were just words. Trust was not something that could be rebuilt overnight, especially after the way she had treated me. I had made my choice to move on, and I was not about to let her back into my heart. The following weeks were a whirlwind of new experiences. My relationship with Lisa deepened, and I found myself genuinely happy. She was everything I had been missing: supportive, kind, and most importantly, trustworthy. I reveled in the moments we shared, exploring the city together and creating memories that I knew wouldn't be tainted by betrayal. I genuinely felt like I had finally found a partner who appreciated me for who I was. At work, I was thriving. The promotion had opened many doors for me, and I was gaining recognition for my contributions. My confidence soared, and I was often approached by colleagues for advice and mentorship. It felt good to be seen, to be respected both professionally and personally. I was building a life that I was proud of, and it was a stark contrast to the uncertainty I had felt in my marriage with Rebecca. But even as I embraced this new chapter, I couldn't shake the feeling that Rebecca was still lurking in the shadows. I would see her occasionally at social events or gatherings where mutual friends were present. Each time I would catch her eye, and there was always that moment of tension, a brief encounter that seemed to echo the past. She was watching me, and I could tell she was trying to gauge my happiness. One night, a group of friends decided to have dinner at a trendy restaurant downtown. Lisa and I were excited to spend time with everyone, and as we arrived, I noticed Rebecca sitting at a table with her friends. I braced myself for what could be an awkward evening, but I was determined not to let her ruin my night. As the evening unfolded, I felt liberated. I was surrounded by people who cared for me, and my connection with Lisa grew stronger. We laughed, shared stories, and enjoyed each other's company. However, I could feel Rebecca's gaze on me from across the room. It was unsettling but also empowering. I had moved on, and part of me wanted her to see just how well I was doing. Halfway through the dinner, I stepped outside to take a call. As I finished, I turned to head back in when I saw Rebecca standing alone by the entrance. She looked conflicted, and for a moment I almost felt pity for her. But then I remembered the pain she had caused. "Hey, Jack," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can we talk?" I hesitated, weighing my options. Part of me wanted to brush her off entirely, but I also felt a strange urge to hear what she had to say. "What is it, Rebecca?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. I just wanted to apologize again for everything. Her eyes were sincere but filled with regret. "I've realized how selfish I was. I took you for granted, and I was wrong to think I could replace you." I could easily see the guilt etched on her face, but I wasn't buying it. "And what do you expect me to do with that? Just forget everything and come back to you?" "No, that's not what I mean," she rushed to say. I want you to know that I see what I lost. I messed up, and I know it." A part of me wanted to let her have it, to tell her how hurt I was, but I also felt strangely calm. "Keep saying that, but I've moved on. You had your chance, Rebecca. You made your choice." "Is that what this is about?" she asked, her voice rising slightly. "Is it about revenge? Because that's not who you are. I know you, Jack." I took a deep breath, feeling the tension between us. "Maybe it's not revenge. Maybe it's about me finding out who I really am without you. I'm not the man who spent years trying to please someone who didn't appreciate him." Her expression faltered, and I could see the realization dawning on her. "You're right, I didn't appreciate you. I took you for granted, and now I'm just lost." "Maybe you should figure that out on your own," I said firmly. "I'm not here to fix you, I'm here to fix me." With that, I turned and walked back inside, feeling like I had just closed a chapter for good. I had stood my ground, affirming my worth and my decision to move on. I was building a new life, one that didn't include the chaos Rebecca brought into my world. As I rejoined Lisa and our friends, I couldn't shake the feeling of freedom. The weight of the past was finally lifting, and I was ready to embrace whatever came next. However, there was still a part of me that knew Rebecca wouldn't simply fade away. I had to be prepared for the possibility that she might try to claw her way back into my life, and if that happened, I needed to be ready to protect my newfound happiness at all costs. In the days that followed, I focused on my relationship with Lisa and my career. I was determined to keep moving forward, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Rebecca was still lurking, waiting for the right moment to strike again. Little did I know, the confrontation that would define my future was just around the corner. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself settling into a rhythm I had never experienced before. My relationship with Lisa blossomed, and I was genuinely enjoying life again. We explored new restaurants, went on weekend trips, and even took dance lessons together. I was having fun, and it felt invigorating. But as much as I reveled in this new chapter, there was an underlying tension that I couldn't quite shake. Rebecca was still a specter in my life, and I knew I had to brace myself for whatever might come next. Then one fateful Friday night, as I settled in for a cozy evening with Lisa, the tension I had been feeling came to a head. We were sitting on the couch, watching a movie, when my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen and felt my heart drop. It was a text from Rebecca. "Can we talk? I need to explain myself, please. I know you're with someone else, but I want to meet." I stared at the message, a mix of anger and confusion bubbling inside me. What does she want now? I thought, my hands clenching around my phone. Lisa must have seen my expression because she paused the movie and turned to me. "Is everything okay?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. "It's Rebecca," I replied, running a hand through my hair. "She wants to talk." Lisa raised an eyebrow, her expression shifting to one of understanding. "Do you want to meet with her?" I mulled it over for a moment. Part of me wanted to confront her head-on, to finally lay everything out, but another part of me knew that nothing good could come from this conversation. I took a deep breath, deciding that I owed it to myself to hear her out. "Yeah, I think I need to," I replied, trying to mask the turmoil I felt. "But I won't let her derail what I have with you." "I trust you," Lisa said, her voice reassuring. "Just be careful, okay?" That Saturday afternoon, I met Rebecca at a coffee shop, a neutral ground, a place where I could maintain some control. As I walked in, I spotted her sitting at a corner table, nervously fidgeting with her cup. She looked different. Her hair was pulled back and her clothes were casual, almost too casual. It was as if she was trying to downplay herself. "Hey," I said as I approached, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Hi," she replied, her voice faltering. "Thanks for agreeing to meet." I sat down across from her, noticing the tension in her shoulders. "What's this about?" I asked, cutting to the chase. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she began, her eyes darting around the cafe. "About us, about everything. I know I messed up and I'm sorry." "Apologies are easy, Rebecca. What do you actually want?" I pressed, not wanting to fall into the trap of emotional manipulation. "I want to explain. I want to show you that I've changed," she said, her voice growing steadier. "I've realized how empty my life is without you. Eric was just a distraction. I was trying to fill a void, but it didn't work." I leaned back in my chair, folding my arms. "And now you think I'm just supposed to forget all of that? You hurt me deeply, Rebecca. You shattered my trust." "I know," she said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I didn't appreciate you when I had you, but I see it now. I know what I threw away, and I want another chance to prove I can be better." Her words felt rehearsed, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being manipulated. "You can't just expect me to take you back because you've had a change of heart. Trust doesn't just come back because you say so." "I know, and I'm willing to work on it," she insisted, her voice rising slightly. "I just need you to give me a chance. I swear I'll prove it to you." I took a moment to process her words, feeling the weight of the past crash down on me. "What makes you think this will be different? You had your chance and you threw it away." "I didn't think about how good I had it," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I was selfish and I hurt you. But I've been alone since we split. I've realized how much I miss you, Jack. I miss the way we laughed, the way we dreamed together." Hearing her say that made my heart ache for a fleeting moment, but I quickly steeled myself. "And what about Eric? Is he just a phase too?" She hesitated, her expression faltering. We've ended things. It was never what I thought it would be. Then why now? I pressed. Why are you coming back after all this time? Because you're lonely. Because I want you back, Jack. She finally admitted, her voice breaking. I realize now that I've been running in circles without you. I want to make it right. I felt a mixture of anger and pity, but mostly I felt resolve. And what if I say no? What if I've moved on? She flinched at my words, but I could see her determination harden. Then I'll respect your decision, but please just think about it. I don't want to lose you forever. I stared at her, weighing my options. I had fought so hard to reclaim my life, to become someone I was proud of. I had rebuilt myself after the wreckage she left behind. But here she was, standing in front of me, trying to pull me back into the chaos. I'll think about it, I said, finally standing up. But know this, I'm not the same man you left behind. You'll have to earn my trust back, and that will take time. As I walked away, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. I had faced her, held my ground, and set boundaries. I wasn't going to be swayed by her emotional pleas. I was stronger now, and I wasn't going back to the life that had caused me so much pain. When I returned to Lisa, I felt renewed. I shared what had happened, and her support reaffirmed that I was on the right path. This part of my life was just beginning, and I was determined to keep moving forward, no matter what obstacles lay ahead. Little did I know, the final confrontation with Rebecca was still waiting in the wings, ready to test the resolve I had fought so hard to build. After my encounter with Rebecca, I felt a mix of relief and resolve. The air had been cleared, and I was reminded that while she was attempting to reinsert herself into my life, I had grown beyond the reach of her past actions. I left that coffee shop feeling empowered, knowing that I wouldn't let her dictate my happiness anymore. In the following weeks, I focused on nurturing my relationship with Lisa. We were building something special, and I didn't want to let any remnants of my past interfere. Our connection deepened, and I was surprised at how naturally everything flowed. We spent weekends hiking, trying new restaurants, and even discussing future travel plans. I hadn't felt this kind of companionship in years, and it was exhilarating. But I was aware of Rebecca lurking in the background. I could feel her shadow stretching out over my newfound happiness, and that gnawed at me. It was as if she was waiting for the right moment to strike again. I couldn't afford to let my guard down completely, and I knew I had to prepare myself for whatever she might try next. Then one evening, while I was out with Lisa, I received an unexpected call from a mutual friend, Sarah. She was one of the few people who knew about my situation with Rebecca, and her voice was tense when she spoke. "Jack, you need to know that Rebecca has been talking about you again. She's been telling people she wants you back and that she can't move on." I let out a deep sigh, frustration washing over me. I can't believe this. I told her I need space, and she's still trying to manipulate the narrative. "I think she's trying to make herself look like the victim," Sarah said. "You should be careful. I just thought you should know." "Thanks for the heads up," I replied, feeling a mix of anger and annoyance. It was clear that she wasn't going to give up easily, and that only solidified my determination to move forward. Later that week, while Lisa and I were enjoying dinner at home, Rebecca sent me a text. "I know you're with Lisa, but I need to talk to you one last time, please." I showed the text to Lisa, and her reaction was immediate. "Jack, you don't owe her anything. You've moved on. Don't let her pull you back into her drama." "I know," I said, running a hand through my hair. "It's just, I want to put this to rest once and for all. I want her to understand that it's over." "Just promise me you'll be careful," Lisa said, her concern evident. "You've worked too hard to get to where you are now." The next day I agreed to meet Rebecca, and this time it felt different. I was going to set the record straight and close this chapter for good. When I arrived at the designated cafe, I took a deep breath, steeling myself for whatever came next. Rebecca was already there, looking anxious. She seemed almost fragile, and for a moment I felt a pang of sympathy, but I quickly reminded myself of the pain she had caused. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, her voice softer than I remembered. "I know this is complicated, but I really need you to hear me out." "Okay," I said, crossing my arms. "But let's get straight to the point. What do you want from me?" "I want you to understand that I've been doing a lot of self-reflection," she began, her eyes earnest. "I realize how toxic I was, and I'm truly sorry. I know I can't undo the past, but I want a chance to be a better person. Rebecca, it's not enough to just say you're sorry, I interjected, feeling my frustration bubble to the surface. You hurt me deeply. You chose someone else over me. You don't get to come back now and expect everything to be okay. I know that, she replied, her voice breaking. But I've been in therapy and I'm working on myself. I want to be honest and upfront about what I did. Honesty is important, but it doesn't change the fact that our marriage is over, I said firmly. You have to accept that. Tears welled up in her eyes, and for a brief moment I wavered, but I quickly reminded myself of the man I had become. I'm happy now, Rebecca. I'm with someone who values me. You've lost your chance. I know, she admitted, her voice trembling, but I can't help but wish things could be different. I miss you. Wishing doesn't change reality, I replied, my voice steady. I'm not going back, I'm not that man anymore. Her expression shifted to one of resignation, as if she finally understood the weight of her actions. I get it. I just wanted to apologize one last time and let you know I'm moving on too. I'll respect your decision. With that, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. I had faced her, stood my ground, and made it clear that I was no longer her backup plan. This chapter was closing, and I was ready to turn the page. As I walked away from that cafe, I felt lighter. I had confronted my past and emerged victorious, determined to forge ahead. The wounds from my marriage with Rebecca would always be part of me, but they no longer defined me. I had built a life worth living, one filled with support, laughter, and love. In the days that followed, I continued to embrace my new reality with Lisa. We made plans for the future, discussing our dreams and aspirations without the baggage of my past weighing us down. I had learned valuable lessons about love, trust, and the importance of valuing myself. As I reflected on my journey, I realized that sometimes the most profound growth comes from the darkest moments. I had been hurt, but that pain had ignited a fire within me to become better, stronger, and happier. I was moving forward, and Rebecca would simply be a footnote in the story of my life, a reminder of what I had overcome and the future I was building. And as for love, I was ready to embrace it again, this time with a heart that was truly open and a spirit that was unbroken.